Schuld's Traveling Wonder. The post on the Vale archives was 3 years old and had 4 comments. Has anyone else heard of Schuld's Traveling Wonder? My grandfather told me about it before he died. Said he saw it once back in 1952, deep in the Oregon woods. Said it appeared out of nowhere, lights, music, the whole thing. And by morning it was gone. He never talked about what happened inside, just said some of the people he went with didn't come back, and the ones who did were different. The comments were sparse, one person calling bullshit. One person saying they'd heard something similar from a great-aunt in Washington. One person posted a blurry photograph that could have been anything, lights and trees maybe, or just lens flare. And one person, username TruthSeeker99, who had simply written, "The carnival gives you what you deserve. Be careful what you've earned." Ronald Davis had been researching paranormal phenomena for 6 years. He'd read every cryptid account, every ghost sighting, every unexplained disappearance in the Pacific Northwest. Most of it was garbage. Misidentified animals, carbon monoxide hallucinations, people who wanted attention. But Schuld's Traveling Wonder kept appearing. Different decades, different locations, always deep in the wilderness, always at night, always gone by morning, and always the same refrain. Some people didn't come back, and the ones who did were changed. He brought it to the group. Ghost Bros and Gal had 847 subscribers. That number hadn't moved in 3 months, despite weekly uploads, despite Ronald's research, despite the hours of editing he did for free because no one else knew how. The channel was Reggie's idea. Reggie's name was first in the credits. Reggie's face was on the thumbnail. Reggie's voice did the intros and outros, while everyone else stood in the background like props. "Schuld's Traveling Wonder," Ronald said, pulling up his notes on his laptop. They were gathered in Reggie's basement, the headquarters, Reggie called it, though it was really just a couch, a mini fridge full of beer, and a wall covered in printouts of locations they'd investigated. It's a carnival, appears randomly in the Pacific Northwest, never in the same place twice, never to the same person. There are accounts going back to the 1800s. "A carnival?" Reggie leaned in, arms crossed. He had the build of a high school linebacker who'd kept lifting but stopped running. Thick through the chest and shoulders, soft around the middle. His face had that permanent smirk, the one that said he was always laughing at something you didn't get. Like cotton candy and Ferris wheels. More like a traveling fair, old-fashioned. The accounts describe it as intoxicating. People feel drawn to it, compelled. "Sounds fake," Jason said it quickly, the way he said everything, checking Reggie's face first, making sure he had permission to have an opinion. Jason was smaller than Reggie, thinner, always wearing clothes just slightly too similar to whatever Reggie had on. Today, it was a backwards cap and a tank top, even though the basement was cold. "Everything sounds fake until we prove it's real," Ronald said patiently. "That's the whole point of the channel." "The point of the channel is to get famous." Crystal didn't look up from her phone. She was sitting in the good chair, the one with actual cushions, her legs tucked under her blonde hair falling in carefully arranged waves, pretty in a small-town way, the kind of pretty that peaked in high school and spent the rest of its life trying to hold the line. "No one's going to watch us wander around the woods looking for a carnival that doesn't exist." "The Blair Witch Project made $250 million, Ronald said. That got her attention. She looked up, calculating. "I think we should do it." Lois's voice was quiet, almost apologetic. She was sitting on the floor near Ronald's feet. There weren't enough chairs, and she'd never once complained about it. Mousy brown hair, glasses, the kind of face people looked past without seeing. "The accounts are consistent. The details match across decades. That's actually really unusual for folklore." "No one asked you," Crystal said. Lois's cheeks flushed. She looked down at her hands. Ronald felt something hot flare in his chest. Anger, protectiveness, the urge to say something. But he swallowed it. He always swallowed it. That was the price of being part of the group. You took what they gave you, and you didn't complain. I say we do it. Reggie stood up, stretching, making sure everyone noticed the way his shirt rode up over his stomach. 3 nights in the woods, looking for a magic carnival. Content is content, and if we don't find it, we can always fake something. We don't fake things, Ronald said. That's not what we— Relax, nerd. Reggie clapped him on the shoulder, too hard to be friendly. I'm kidding. Mostly. He grabbed a beer from the fridge, tossed one to Jason, didn't offer one to anyone else. Pack your shit. We leave Friday. The drive took 11 hours. Ronald had mapped the route based on the accounts, triangulating locations, looking for patterns, trying to predict where the carnival might appear next. His best guess was a stretch of wilderness in the Cascade Range, miles from the nearest road, accessible only by a logging trail that hadn't been used in decades. Reggie drove. He always drove. His truck, his rules, his music blasting from the speakers while everyone else sat in silence. Jason rode shotgun, laughing at everything Reggie said. Crystal sat in the back seat, taking selfies, occasionally complaining about the cell service. Ronald and Lois sat in the truck bed with the camping gear. It was cold, and the wind cut through their jackets, but it was better than being inside. Quieter. Do you think we'll actually find it? Lois asked. She had to lean close to be heard over the wind, her shoulder pressing against his. I don't know. Ronald watched the trees blur past, endless green fading to black as the sun set. The accounts are consistent, but that doesn't mean it's real. It could be mass hysteria, shared delusion, people seeing what they want to see. What do you want to see? He thought about it. Proof of something, anything. He laughed, but there wasn't much humor in it. 6 years of research, and I've never seen anything I couldn't explain. Just once, I want to be wrong. I want something to be real. Lois sat quiet for a moment, then softly, I just want to matter to someone for something. Ronald looked at her, at the way the fading light caught her eyes, turning them gold, at the way she hunched her shoulders, making herself small, taking up as little space as possible. You matter to me, he said. She smiled. It was a small thing, barely there, but it transformed her face. Thanks, Ronald. They sat in comfortable silence as the truck carried them deeper into the wilderness, towards something neither of them could have imagined. They found nothing the first night. Set up camp in a clearing, built a fire, filmed some B-rolls of the woods at night. Reggie did a piece to camera about the legend of Schuld's traveling wonder, stumbling over the name twice, getting irritated when Ronnie tried to correct him. It's a German name, Schuld, like Schoold. I know how to say it. You said Schuld twice. I know how to say it. Reggie's jaw tightened. Go check the perimeter or something. Make yourself useful. Ronald went. It was easier than fighting. He walked the edge of the clearing with a flashlight, not really looking for anything, just putting distance between himself and Reggie's voice. The woods were dense here, old-growth forest that hadn't been logged in a century. The trees were massive, their canopy blocking out the stars, and the silence was absolute. No birds, no insects, nothing but the crunch of his boots on dead leaves. Lois found him 20 minutes later. Crystal wanted me to tell you dinner's ready. She fell into step beside him, her own flashlight cutting a weak beam through the darkness. By which she meant she wanted me to make dinner and then come get you. Shocking. I saved you the good granola bar, the one with chocolate chips. You're a saint. They walked back together, shoulders almost touching, and Ronald felt something he hadn't felt in a long time. Something like hope. The second night, they went deeper, left the main camp and hiked for hours, following Ronald's map into a valley that didn't appear on any official survey. The terrain was rough, the undergrowth thick, and by the time they stopped to rest, everyone was exhausted and irritable. This is pointless, Crystal announced. She'd twisted her ankle on a route an hour ago. The same ankle she'd injured in high school, she reminded everyone. The injury that had ended her cheerleading career and ruined her life. She was sitting on a fallen log, massaging her foot. Her face a twisted scowl. "We've been walking for days. There's nothing out here." "The account says it appears at night," Ronald said. "We have to be patient." "Patient," she spat the words. "Easy for you to say. You're not the one who has to look good on camera. Do you know what this humidity is doing to my hair?" "No one cares about your hair, Crystal." Reggie was checking his phone, even though there was no signal. "We're here for content, not a photo shoot." "You cared about my hair last week. You said it looked pretty." "I was being nice." "You were flirting." "I was being nice." Jason watched this exchange with the desperate intensity of a dog hoping for scraps. His eyes darted between Reggie and Crystal, trying to calculate the right response, the one that would make Reggie like him more without making Crystal hate him. Lois and Ronald exchanged a look, the same look they always exchanged when the three of them started performing for each other. Exhaustion, amusement, and something like pity. "Let's keep moving," Ronald said. "We've still got a few hours of daylight." They kept moving. It appeared at dusk. One moment, they were trudging through an endless corridor of trees, the light fading, the temperature dropping. The next moment, they stepped into a clearing, and there it was, Schuld's traveling wonder. The lights hit them first, strings of colored bulbs draped between poles, casting everything in a warm amber glow. Then the music, calliope and organ, old-fashioned and slightly off-key, like a song remembered wrong. Then the smell, popcorn and sugar, sawdust and something else underneath, something metallic and ancient. The carnival sprawled across the clearing like it had always been there, striped tents in red and gold, a Ferris wheel turning slowly against the darkening sky, booths and games and attractions stretching back into the trees, farther than seemed possible, larger than the clearing should have been able to hold. And people, everywhere, people in old-fashioned clothes, in costumes, in masks, barkers calling out from their booths, performers on raised platforms, crowds flowing between the attraction like blood through veins. "Holy shit," Reggie breathed. He had his camera out filming, his face split in a grin. "Holy shit! Ronald, are you seeing this?" Ronald was seeing it. He was seeing it and he couldn't believe it, and his hands were shaking as he fumbled for his own camera. "It's real," Lois whispered. She was standing close to him, her hand finding his, her fingers ice cold. "Ronald, it's real." "Well, don't just stand there." Crystal was already walking toward the entrance, toward an archway draped in velvet and lights. "Let's go." They went. The moment they passed through the archway, something changed. The air felt thicker, warmer. The sounds of the carnival wrapped around them like a blanket, muffling the outside world until it seemed very far away. Ronald's skin prickled with something that might have been excitement or might have been fear. He couldn't tell the difference anymore. "Welcome, welcome, welcome." A man appeared in front of them, tall, thin, dressed in a ringmaster's coat of deep crimson. His face was handsome in an old-fashioned way, all sharp angles and dark eyes, and when he smiled, his teeth were very white. "Travelers," he said, "seekers, we've been expecting you." "You have?" Reggie puffed up, preening. "You know who we are?" "We know everyone who finds their way to Schuld's." The ringmaster's eyes moved across the group, lingering on each face. "The carnival appears to those who are ready, those who have earned its gifts." "Gifts?" Crystal stepped forward, her ankle injury apparently forgotten. "What kind of gifts?" "That depends on you." The ringmaster's smile widened. "The carnival gives each visitor what they deserve, no more, no less." He spread his arms wide. "Please, explore, enjoy, find the attractions that call to you. The night is young, and there is so much to see." He stepped aside, gesturing toward the lights and music and movement beyond. And they went. They separated almost immediately. It wasn't intentional, or maybe it was. The carnival seemed to shift around them, pathways opening and closing, crowds flowing in different directions. One moment they were together, the next moment, Ronald turned around and Reggie was gone. "Where?" he spun, searching. "Reggie? Jason?" Crystal was gone too, just Lois beside him, her hand still clutching his, her face pale in the colored lights. "They're gone," she said. "Ronald, they just vanished. We need to find them." "Do we?" He looked at her, at the strange expression on her face. Not fear, exactly. Something more complicated. "They're our friends," he said, though the word felt wrong in his mouth. "Are they?" Lois's voice was soft. "They've never treated us like friends. We're just useful. We do the work and they take the credit. We're invisible until they need something." "That doesn't mean we leave them." "No," she squeezed his hand. "No, it doesn't. I'm sorry, I know." And he did. He felt it too. The temptation to let the carnival have them, to walk away and pretend he'd never known them. "But we have to try." They went looking. Reggie followed the woman. She was beautiful, the most beautiful woman he'd ever seen. Tall, lithe, dressed in a glittering leotard that left little to the imagination. She moved through the crowd like water, glancing back at him with a smile that promised everything. "Hey, wait up!" She led him through the carnival, past games and food carts and performers, always just out of reach. He pushed through crowds, shoved people aside, his eyes fixed on the shimmer of her costume. "I'm Reggie," he called. "Reggie Marsh. I'm kind of famous. You might have seen my channel, Ghost Bros and Gal." She laughed, a silver sound like bells, and slipped between the flaps of a tent. "House of Horrors," the sign read, in letters that dripped red. Reggie didn't hesitate. He followed her in. The inside of the tent was larger than possible. A corridor stretched ahead of him, walls lined with mirrors that reflected nothing, doorways that opened onto darkness. The beautiful woman was gone, but he could hear her laughter echoing somewhere ahead. "Hello?" His voice sounded strange in here, smaller. "Where'd you go, babe?" No answer, just the laughter, distant and cold. He walked deeper. The first room showed him himself, not in a mirror, in a scene like a diorama behind glass. Little Reggie, maybe 7 years old, standing over a smaller kid in a playground. The smaller kid was crying. Little Reggie was laughing. "You always were cruel," a voice whispered. It seemed to come from everywhere, even before you knew what cruelty meant. "So what?" Reggie's jaw tightened. "Kid was annoying. He deserved it." The scene shifted. High school now. Reggie in a Letterman jacket, surrounded by friends, pointing at someone across the cafeteria. A skinny kid sitting alone, trying to disappear into his lunch tray. "Ronald," the voice said, "you chose him because he was smart, because he could do the work you couldn't, and you've been taking from him ever since." "He's fine. He likes being part of the group." "Does he?" The scene shifted again and again. Every cruelty he'd ever committed, every person he'd stepped on, every moment he'd chosen himself over someone else. The parade stretched on forever, and with each scene, the walls pressed closer, the air grew thinner, and Reggie's protests grew weaker. "Stop it! Make it stop!" "Why? This is who you are. This is what you've earned." The beautiful woman appeared in front of him, but she wasn't beautiful anymore. Her face was a ruin, hollow eyes and rotting flesh, and when she smiled, her teeth were black and sharp. "You wanted to follow me," she said. "Now, Follow me forever. She reached for him. Reggie screamed. The things in the House of Horrors fed well that night. Jason followed the clown. She was pretty in a strange way, white face paint and red lips, a colorful costume that jingled when she moved. She took his hand and told him he was handsome, told him he was strong, told him all the things he'd always wanted to hear. "You're not like the others," she said. "You're special." "I am." "Oh, yes, so special. Come with me. I'll show you where you belong." She led him to the freak show. The tent was dark inside, lit only by sputtering torches. Glass cases lined the walls, each one containing something twisted. Humans that weren't quite human, bodies bent and broken in impossible ways. "What is this place?" "Home." The clown's voice changed, deeper, rougher. "For those who've twisted themselves into something they were never meant to be." Jason turned to run. The freaks were already out of their cases. They surrounded him, the twisted, the broken, the ones who'd bent themselves into shapes that didn't fit. They looked at him with eyes that held no mercy. "You wanted so badly to be like him," they said, speaking in unison. "You changed everything about yourself. Your clothes, your voice, your thoughts. You became a reflection of someone else's cruelty. I was just trying to fit in. You fit in here now." They picked up stones, old stones, smooth and heavy, like something from an ancient ritual. Wait, please!" The first stone struck his shoulder. The second struck his head. Jason fell. The freaks gathered closer. When they were finished, there was nothing left but pulp and silence. Crystal followed the ringmaster. He appeared beside her the moment she was alone, his hand finding the small of her back, his breath warm against her ear. "Beautiful," he murmured. "So beautiful." "You think so?" She smiled her prettiest smile. "Most people do." "I can see what others can't." His eyes were dark pools, bottomless. "Your true beauty. The beauty inside." She laughed. "God, that's corny." "Is it?" He steered her through the crowd toward a heart-shaped entrance draped in pink velvet. "Then let me show you something that isn't." "Tunnel of Love," the sign read. Crystal went willingly. Inside, the boats drifted through darkness. The ringmaster sat across from her, his handsome face flickering in the dim light, and she felt herself falling into those dark eyes. "Do you know why I chose you?" he asked. "Because I'm beautiful?" "Because you're hollow." His voice was gentle, kind almost. "You've built your whole life around a reflection, around what other people see when they look at you. But I can see deeper." The walls of the tunnel lit up, images like the House of Horrors, but these were different. These showed Crystal as others saw her. The cruelty, the pettiness, the way she looked at people and calculated their worth, the way she discarded anyone who couldn't give her what she wanted. "Stop it!" "The ankle injury." The ringmaster's voice was soft. "You blame it for everything. But you were like this before. You've always been like this. Empty, hungry, trying to fill the void with attention and admiration." "I said stop!" "No one has ever loved you, Crystal. Not really. They love what you looked like, what you could give them. But you, the real you, there's nothing there to love." She was crying now, ugly tears running down her perfect face, ruining her perfect makeup. "That's not true, Reggie." "Reggie wants to use you the way you wanted to use him. Two hollow people trying to fill each other's emptiness." The ringmaster leaned forward. "There's no love here. There never was." He reached into her chest. His hand passed through flesh and bone like they were water, and when he pulled back, he was holding something red and beating. "Your heart," he said, "as empty as I expected." Crystal looked down at the hole in her chest, at the nothing where her heart used to be. "Please," she whispered, "please, I can change." "No," the ringmaster said, almost sadly. "You can't." He crushed her heart in his fist. Crystal slumped in the boat, her beautiful face frozen in a final expression of surprise, and the tunnel of love carried her body deeper into the darkness. Ronald and Lois searched for hours, the carnival shifting around them, paths changing, tents appearing and disappearing. They called their friends' names until their voices went hoarse. They asked the performers, the barkers, the strange figures and masks. No one would answer. Finally, they found themselves back at the entrance. The ringmaster was waiting. "You're looking for your friends," he said. It wasn't a question. "Where are they?" Ronald stepped forward, trying to project confidence he didn't feel. "What did you do to them?" "I did nothing. The carnival gives each visitor what they deserve. Your friends earned their fates." "Earned?" Lois's voice cracked. "They're dead, aren't they?" "They're exactly where they belong." The ringmaster's smile was gentle. "As are you." "What do you mean?" "You came here looking for proof." He looked at Ronald. "For something to validate years of work that no one appreciated. And you?" His eyes moved to Lois. "You came looking for a place where you mattered, where someone saw you." "So what?" Ronald's hands were shaking. "You're going to kill us too?" "Kill you?" The ringmaster laughed. "My dear boy, you've done nothing to deserve death. You've been patient and kind and loyal to people who offered you nothing in return. The carnival doesn't punish virtue." He reached into his coat and withdrew 2 objects. The first was a memory card, small, black, ordinary. "Your footage," he said, handing it to Ronald. "All of it. The carnival, the attractions, everything you saw tonight. It will make you famous, more famous than you ever dreamed." Ronald took the card. It felt warm in his hand, alive. The second object was a mirror, small, handheld. The frame worked in tarnished silver. "For you." The ringmaster offered it to Lois. "Look." Lois took the mirror, looked, and gasped. The face looking back wasn't her face, not the face she knew anyway. This face was beautiful, striking, the kind of face that made people stop and stare, that launched ships and started wars. "It's who you really are," the ringmaster said. "The beauty you've always carried inside, finally visible to the world." Lois touched her cheek, looked at her reflection again. "What about the others?" Ronald asked. "Reggie and Jason and Crystal?" "They'll be staying with us." The ringmaster's voice was final. That was the price of admission. They knew the risks, even if they didn't believe them. "We can't just leave them." "You can, and you will." The ringmaster stepped aside, gesturing toward the archway. "Go now, before dawn. The carnival doesn't stay in one place for long." Ronald looked at the memory card in his hand, at Lois, still staring at her reflection, a strange light in her eyes. "Come on," he said. "We need to go." They went. The walk back to camp took hours. They didn't speak. The forest was dark around them, darker than it should have been, and the silence was absolute. No birds, no insects, just their footsteps and their breathing and the weight of everything they'd seen. The carnival was gone when they looked back, just trees and darkness and the faint smell of smoke. Dawn was breaking by the time they reached the truck. The camping gear was where they'd left it, the cooler, the tents, the bags packed by people who would never unpack them again. Ronald sat in the driver's seat. He didn't have the keys. Reggie had the keys. But they were in the ignition anyway. He didn't question it. Lois sat beside him, the mirror still in her hands. She hadn't stopped looking at it. "We should call someone," Ronald said. "Report them missing." "Should we?" Lois's voice was distant, dreamy. "They knew the risks. The ringmaster said so. They're dead, Lois. They're dead because we didn't stop them. We couldn't have stopped them." She finally looked up from the mirror. Her face, her real face, hadn't changed. Same mousy hair, same plain features, but there was something different in her eyes, something hungry. They were always going to end up there. People like that, they can't help themselves. Ronald stared at her, at the stranger wearing his friend's face. "Let's just go home," he said. He started the truck, pulled onto the logging road, drove toward the sunrise. In his pocket, the memory card felt warm, waiting. The footage went viral. 12 million views in his first week. News coverage, interview requests, a documentary deal from Netflix, another from HBO. Ghost Bros and Gal was suddenly the biggest thing in paranormal media, and Ronald Davis was its sole surviving star. He told the story 100 times. The search, the discovery, the friends who went in and never came out. He showed the footage, the lights, the music, the ringmaster's smile, and watched people's faces as they realized it was real. All of it. Real. He was famous now. More famous than Reggie had ever been. More famous than he'd ever dreamed of being. And every time he told the story, every time he watched the footage, he felt something shift inside him. Something hungry, opening its eyes. "More," it whispered. "You need more." He started planning the next investigation, something bigger, something more dangerous, something that would make the carnival look like a warm-up. Lois didn't do interviews. She stayed home mostly, stayed quiet, stayed out of the spotlight that had suddenly engulfed Ronald and the channel. But she didn't stay invisible, not anymore. People noticed her now, on the street, in coffee shops, everywhere she went. Men turned to look. Women whispered. She caught her reflection in windows and barely recognized herself. Not the mousy girl from before, but someone else. Someone beautiful. Someone worth seeing. She kept the mirror on her nightstand, looked at it every morning, every night. The beautiful face looked back, and every time she saw it, she felt a warmth spread through her chest. This is who you really are. She started dressing differently, walking differently, speaking differently. The old Lois, shy, apologetic, invisible, was fading away, replaced by something brighter and sharper and more alive. One evening, she caught herself looking at a stranger in a grocery store, a plain woman, unremarkable, the kind of person Lois used to be, and she felt something she'd never felt before. Contempt. "You're better than her," the mirror whispered. "You're better than all of them." Lois smiled, and somewhere deep inside her, in a place where kindness used to live, vanity took root. The carnival moved on, through forests and fields, mountains and valleys, appearing and disappearing like a dream. The ringmaster welcomed new visitors. The attractions claimed new souls. The cycle continued, as it had for centuries, as it would for centuries more. In the House of Horrors, something that used to be Reggie screamed without sound. In the freak show, something that used to be Jason joined the twisted shapes in the glass cases. In the tunnel of love, something that used to be Crystal drifted through darkness, forever reaching for a heart she would never hold again. And somewhere in the Pacific Northwest, two survivors drove toward a future that glittered with promise. They didn't know yet what they were becoming. They didn't know that the carnival's gifts always came with a price. They didn't know that the corruption had already begun. But they would learn. Everyone learns in the end. That's what they deserve.